people who are on Zoom. We have about 15 to 20 people watching on Zoom. And I also want to thank those people who are watching the recording, family members and friends who couldn't be here today. So thank you. So someone recently asked me, why do you like to do storytelling? Why is storytelling important to you? So I said, storytelling is healing. I'm going to repeat that. Storytelling is healing. And I have witnessed in myself, in many stages that I have attended, speaking platform, I shared my stories about being a former refugee, about thriving for survival, seeking for food, waiting in line, feeling my sun beat down to my skin and feeling my skin pale, and making peace with food. And over, I have shared that story on stages. But the first time I shared that story, I cried, tears whipped, I had sadness, because I had to go back to that 15-year-old who lived that life. Storytelling is important because not it's only healing, it really paves the path of the future, what we get to create in the future. I have shared about adapting from one country that our family moved from Mozambique, Malawi, and Zambia, adapting to the culture, adapting to the language, adapting to all the things. And also, I have shared about coming to America and adapting to the life in America. I have shared about different careers helping women in their healing journey, helping them overcome their healing power of being sexually abused, because I myself have been there too. Over the past 6.5 years, I have witnessed confident speakers catalysts fiercely step into the stage, bravely sharing their stories, wholeheartedly inspiring others. They've shown incredible courage going on to build amazing things beyond the spotlight. And some of you are in the stage, right? I in the audience right now. Can I see some hands? I have seen the first-time speakers catalysts share what they've learned through their values, lessons, through their valuable experiences, shaping the new narrative and crafting the new stories. I've seen stories of people falling in love, people getting married, careers changing, taking new leadership roles. They've envisioned themselves living out these stories, speaking the affirmation out loud into the world, and creating those amazing dreams. I have witnessed many of them bravely step forward, tears, undergoing healing, and ultimately conquering their challenges. And they've also developed a deeper sense of compassion for themselves, for the world, and in return, they've also shared their stories with their children and their grandchildren, and revealing their parts of their lives that their families did not know. I've also seen audiences like you today sit down right where you're sitting, laugh, cry, feeling sad for the speakers, being transported into their own journey of pain, fear, shame, and building compassion to themselves and understanding, did that speaker just share my story? In the end, we are all forging new pathways, boldly rewriting our stories out loud. We are using our experiences to heal, but most importantly, we're taking further steps to let go. I'm curious to remember what their story remains, but what I know is their stories lightens up their load of their life. It frees them. The story no longer controls them. As we step off the stage, we have the opportunity to create a new story, a fresh path, and a brighter future. I want to thank the audience for being here today, online, those who are recording, those who are watching in this space, and most importantly, all of you guys who are holding space for these speakers who are about to speak on stage today, because their stories are going to be heard for the first time. Thank you for creating a circle of healing and space for new stories of success where it starts. Before I introduce you my business partner, co-host tonight, I want to thank Marsha, our sponsor, Jacobson, for taking the photos for our speakers today, Amanda for recording right there. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you, my business partner, also a former Confidence Speakers Catalyst, the owner of Stage Savvy Speakers and CEO of 10-4, April Young.
All right, how are you guys? Good. Okay, I'm going to take this out because I'm a little taller than Rakshana and this is too short. All right, here we go. Welcome everyone to the Confidence Catalyst Speaker Series. We are so excited to have you all here with us. Those of you that are here in person, those that are watching on Zoom, and those of you that watch this on YouTube later, if you can't attend tonight, thank you for coming and supporting this program, these speakers, and the stories that they're about to share with you all. Again, my name is April, and I am your host for the rest of the night. We'll give Rakshana the rest of the night off. So a little about me. Let me fix this. I'm a speaking coach, and I believe that everyone has a story. Everyone has a story to tell and a lesson to tell within that story. Our stories pave the way for healing, as Rakshana said. And if you are trying to lift something heavy and you can't do it alone, what do? You ask for help. When you ask for help, someone comes along with their strength and helps you to lift that very heavy load, and then it's not as heavy for you, right? The same is true when we share our stories. When we share those things that have happened to us in our lives or those experiences that we have survived and lived through, those loads immediately become lighter, easier to process, easier to live with, and easier to share again and again. So I am just so honored to be a part of these speakers' story. The last 2 months working with them have been amazing. They always are, and I say that every single time. But being able to go on this journey of healing and confidence creating, confidence discovery, because you all have confidence, you just didn't know that it was there yet. But being on this journey with you, I feel like it's such a privilege for me. So thank you for trusting me to take you guys on that journey. I know there were tears. There were moments of, why am I doing this? There were moments of, I don't think I can do this. And there were moments of, what did I get myself into? Yeah, I've been there. I know. So real quick, here's what you can expect for the next couple of hours. Each of our speakers will come up. We'll have 2 speakers. And then our sponsor, Marsha, will come up and share a few remarks with you. Then we'll give you a break. We'll give you an intermission to grab another glass of wine or water or snack, step outside for some air, use the bathroom, whatever you need to do. We'll have about 10 minutes of a break. Then we'll come back and we'll have our last 2 speakers take the stage. After that, we'll have some open networking. So feel free to stay and chat with your favorite speaker, get to learn more about them and their story, make some new friends, and just enjoy the rest of the evening after that. All right, so it wasn't all that long ago that I too took the Confidence Catalyst stage. It wasn't quite this big or this fancy. We didn't even have a microphone, but it was an amazing experience. And the very first time I ever took the stage was in 6th grade at the DARE program. Anybody here remember DARE? Yep, I just told you how old I am. It's fine. That's the very first time I got to speak, and I was hooked immediately. And I knew in my heart then that I belonged in a place where I could be on the stage and help others get on the stage. However, it would be 35 years or so, maybe not quite that many, close to that many, before that would become reality, which is right now. So I am very grateful for the opportunity to be here. As Rakshana said, we grow through our stories. Stories have been used for millions of years as ways to preserve history, survival guides, think drawings on cave walls. All of that is a manner of storytelling. So tonight we are here to share stories of 4 amazing people and hope that you will get a little bit of something from each of them that will help you to process an emotion that you may have felt or remember an experience that you had and realize that you're not alone. You're not alone in whatever that experience was. So while you will see speakers that have made the decision to take the stage tonight, you don't see the transformation that they've been through. You just get to see the result of us kind of reliving all of those experiences together and putting them together in a way that will hopefully entertain you, captivate you, maybe get into your feelings just a little bit. There are boxes of Kleenex roaming around. If you need them, please feel free to ask your neighbor to pass one over for you. That's totally fine. So, without further ado, it is my great honor to start off the evening with our first speaker, Miss Amy Black. Amy's story is one of self-realization and unlearning the strict beliefs that she was raised with and then reforming them to help her create the life that she desired and that felt true to herself. Please help me welcome to the stage our first speaker for the evening, Amy Black.
Recently, I came across a quote in one of my incredibly supportive Facebook groups that struck a chord with me so profoundly that it served as this cornerstone of inspiration for this speech. I'm going to share it with you now. My first abusive relationship was with God. Conditioned to not trust myself, to not think for myself, to not listen to my needs, and to repress my natural desires and feelings. Conditioned to believe I am worthless, broken, and sinful. Conditioned to believe I need to be saved, and to be saved, I needed to submit myself completely to His will, whatever may come. Threatened that if I ever spoke up against abuse or voiced my questions, I would be shunned. In all that, I was taught to believe that this was from a loving God. My name is Amy, and I have a story that is unlike most. I am a white girl who was born to an American mom and a white Kenyan dad in Cameroon, West Africa. Not only that, I was born into the deeply religious ideals of fundamentalist evangelical missionary family. You can imagine how this dichotomy made it for a very confusing and interesting upbringing. While I loved growing up in my tiny village in Cameroon and have considered myself Cameroonian for as long as I can remember, it was not easy. I faced rejection and discrimination for my entire childhood, even though I was born there, spoke the language, and embraced Cameroon as my home. To this day, when I meet my fellow countrymen, they still question me and doubt if I'm truly Cameroonian. This was so heartbreaking and isolating. But was it any easier when I was forced to move to the United States when I was 18? No, it was not. Now I found that even though I looked like everyone else and people would assume that I was American, I had no idea what the culture was. I didn't understand the movie or pop culture references, and I always felt stupid as people looked at me and questioned with a questioning face, "Why don't you understand these basic common things?" Another aspect to my growing up that was incredibly challenging was that of the strict religious mold I was forced into. There was no other option. This was the only way the world worked and the only way to salvation. I was taught that everyone else around me was wrong and that the culture I embraced as my own was somehow fundamentally flawed because they didn't believe in the same God or have the same religious practices. As a child, I felt uneasy around all these things, but I had no voice for it. And even if I had, I would have been shut down. So I embraced it fully, accepting that this was the ultimate way to salvation and happiness. However, even though I was fully invested and in servitude to God and His will, I wasn't happy. I experienced my first form of sexual abuse by an older missionary kid at the age of 5. This launched me into a lifelong struggle with masturbation, which was condemned by my parents' religion and worldview. I was shamed for exploring my body by my dad, and as I grew up and hit puberty, he and my mom also shamed me for having a woman's sexy body. I was told to cover up, not to cause men to stumble, that it was my fault if they lusted, all the while experiencing molestation and verbal sexual abuse daily from the Cameroonian boys and men wherever I went. I was a target. As an early developing girl who was white and pretty, nowhere was safe from the prying eyes and disgusting sexual remarks and groping hands of any guy I happened to walk by. And in all this, my parents did nothing. I don't know if they refused to see it because it was too hard, or they just didn't notice. But no one protected me. I learned to protect myself with a fierce rage and strength. I became a tough, athletic tomboy who worked out every day to make sure I was the fastest and the strongest so that no one could hurt me and so that I could protect my sister from it as well. Of course, my dad didn't protect me, though. He thought I was the problem. I lived in an environment where his anger and disappointment in me reigned supreme daily. Little did I know that he was struggling with his own demons. However, I knew in my gut something was wrong. I saw how he behaved. I heard the rumors whispered by the villagers. I hated him. I didn't know why, but I did. And as I grew older, I started to figure it out. Even though he was a revered missionary pastor who preached purity culture, modesty, abstinence, and faithfulness to one spouse, I began to observe him ogling women just as my dreaded tormentors did in the village. When I grew older, I caught him watching pornography, which in that context was considered akin to adultery, and in my young brain, the worst possible thing he could do. It broke me. I told my mom, and it broke her. And I had to witness her mental health unravel, and soon thereafter, we left Cameroon and moved to the States so they could get counseling, or so I was told. That's when I was thrown into this new and strange world, but I was alone and unprotected as my parents dealt with this huge marriage crisis and were being kicked off the mission field after 20 years of faithful service to the God of their choosing. In this vulnerable state, I reconnected with my husband-to-be. We had known each other our whole lives as his family was missionaries in Nigeria. We grew closer. He was my solace in a time when everything was unclear and scary. I sought the safety that brought me, and despite not being in love with him, I agreed to marry him at the age of just 20. At first, our marriage was good, mostly built on friendship and shared history. But as the years passed and the pressures of our religion grew, things fell apart. I didn't want kids, and he wanted like 10. I was manipulated into 1, and then 2, and then 3, and finally made pregnant without my consent with a 4th. Not only this, but he was also incredibly emotionally abusive and isolating to me. It was during that time, and because of many more reasons than we can go into here, that I started questioning God and Christianity and started my deconstruction process and extraction from the only way of life I had ever known. The other catalyst was finding out that the real reason my parents were kicked off the mission field was because my dad had been having sex with prostitutes for years, cheating on my mom and disrespecting women just as I had been disrespected and used. Now it made sense why in my heart I somehow knew I didn't like him and I didn't want anything to do with him. This caused a near mental break for me, causing me to spiral into depression and panic attacks. I'm shocked that I ever got out of it. This, along with leaving Christianity, caused even more strife in my marriage as we no longer held the same worldviews, and my husband chose to still be in a relationship with my dad. I felt like I was flying through space, untethered and ungrounded, as I dismantled every fundamental belief I had ever had. It was a dark time full of depression and anxiety. Somehow, amidst it all, I knew what to do. I had to leave my husband. I didn't know how. I had been a stay-at-home mom for years and had no college education or work history. I had no idea how I would support myself and take care of my kids. But one day, when I thought I was pregnant again, and he refused to let me go get an abortion or for him to get a vasectomy, I snapped, and I left. Luckily, I was not pregnant again, but I was grateful that I thought I was, because it was the catalyst that pushed me to do what I knew I needed to do for years. I started school to become a health coach. I started my business, Flourishing Festivities, and I jumped into the scary unknown. It was harder than I ever could have imagined. I lost everything, not just my worldview and my husband, but also my entire community and my family, as I was made out to be a villainous whore who had abandoned her family. I almost lost my kids too when my husband filed for sole custody. But something was different, and it made it all worth it. I was myself. I was happy for the first time in my whole life. I was living exactly who I was born to be and who I knew I was on the inside. I embraced my queerness openly. I became polyamorous. I became a strong and confident businesswoman. I found my own spirituality, and I became a better mom. I started to find my community, including other Africans who I had not been with for such a long time. But most of all, I started to really love myself and develop a healthy, amazing relationship with myself. It didn't happen overnight, though. This took about 4 years. And during that time, I continued the pattern of dating men that disrespected and abused me, continuing to follow the path that had been laid out for me in my childhood relationship with God and in my marriage and from my dad. It wasn't until this last year that something shifted, and I started to respect myself enough to stop dating men that didn't see me for the goddess I am and treat me as such. I have learned to love myself. I've learned to hold boundaries. I've learned to be content with being alone, and through that, I've been given some pretty amazing relationships. Better than I possibly ever could have imagined. Life is a journey, not a destination. I'm still on my journey, and I'm not alone. As a result, I am proud to say that I am now living as my most authentic self. I am modeling a healthy and vibrant life for my kids full of fun and adventure. I'm developing healthy relationships, boundaries, and self-worth. I have so much more peace of mind, and I'm no longer repeating patterns from my past life like I did with my abusive husband. I am pushing forward as a kick-ass entrepreneur with so many big things and partnerships on the horizon. One is working with my dear friend and fellow speaker, Patience, as we collaborate on catering together, building support in the African community, and looking at a physical location for our businesses. Another is that I'm overjoyed to share with you that I'm finally going home to Cameroon in July for the first time since leaving in 2007. I see it as a huge healing opportunity as I rediscover my roots and fill in the pieces from my past. I'm so excited to share that I will be taking a group of people with me who also want to discover the amazing beauty and culture that Cameroon has to offer. Also, I am currently writing a book about my experience, which will be coming out in the near future. Above all this, I found peace and self-love, and my desire is to share it with others and inspire and help other women, specifically to help African women and adult missionary kids to break free of the abuse and bondage of religious and patriarchal oppression and find the vibrant, strong, kick-ass women inside that can do big and amazing things, even if it's scary. Creating my business, Flourishing Festivities, was originally to help me get out of my abusive, restrictive situation. It was to help others with food sensitivities and give them the opportunity to have yummy, allergen-friendly cake at their special moments in life, because everything I do is gluten-free, dairy-free, and refined sugar-free. I had no idea that it would grow into what it is today. Not only has it turned into my main source of income, but it has also become the fire that has molded, shaped, and grown me into the confident woman you see before you. When I started, I had no idea what I was doing, but I was determined, and I taught myself to do what I didn't know how to yet. For the things I couldn't figure out, I got advice and coaching. I refused to succumb to the internal voice that said, I can't, I don't know how. The fact was that I just didn't know how to yet. And once I learned it, now I knew. The reason I could even do all these hard things is because deconstructing religion and leaving a marriage and an entire community was the hardest thing I've ever done, and probably the hardest thing I will ever do. In comparison, everything else is easy. Deconstruction creates a flexible brain that allows for a growth mindset that is not limited to our perceived current worldview. Our perspective, awareness, and knowledge are always shifting, and it is those who can shift with it and not hang on to the past or previously held beliefs because it is too painful to change, that are propelled forward into greatness. Now, my healthiest relationship is with myself. Reconditioning myself to love myself unconditionally, trust myself, think for myself, and listen to my body and my needs. Reconditioning myself to know that I am worthy, I am whole, I am virtuous, and I am perfect just the way I am. Reconditioning myself to know I do not need to be saved. I do not need a savior. I save myself. Submitting to no one's will but my own, trusting that my higher self has my best interest at heart. Comforted by the fact that when I voice my abuse, questions, and doubts, I will be heard, accepted, and supported. In all this, I know that my higher self has my best interest at heart, that I will heal my heart and cherish and take care of myself unconditionally. I am my own goddess, my own lover, and my own parent. I know now that this is true unconditional love.
If you were nervous, it didn't show. Good job, Amy. Okay, so that's number one, right? Who needed tissue already? Anyone? Yeah, a few of us? Okay, that's totally fine. Moving on, I'm not going to give you any time to process, so just keep those tissues handy because you're probably going to need them. Our next speaker is Karina Chicas, and Karina's story starts all the way back in first grade with her talk titled, see if I can remember this, Beyond Labels, Embracing the Power of Learning Differently. Karina is going to share with you her experiences growing up in an education system that was not built for someone like her. Please welcome to the stage, Karina Chicas.
They told me I was stupid. Throughout my entire childhood, I was labeled as learning disabled and put into special ed by the system. Do you know what the definition of disabled is? Disability refers to a person who has physical or mental limitation that makes it difficult or impossible for them to do something. It wasn't that I couldn't learn or that I was limited in my ability to learn. I simply learned differently. And in the school system that taught me in one manner, I struggled. My teachers either didn't care or didn't have the capacity to take the time to teach me in the way that I learned. So instead, they labeled me as disabled and shuffled me off to the special ed department. I'm sure they meant it as a way for me to be able to learn what I could, but under their assumptions that I was learning impaired. I began to believe that I was in fact disabled and that could not truly learn. This belief stayed with me and made me think that I was limited, unable to advance, and not worthy of my teacher's efforts to be educated. The first time I remember struggling to keep up with my classmates was in first grade. I couldn't keep up with the overwhelming directions on what was being taught. There was one incident in our music class where we were all learning the xylophone. I was too embarrassed to admit how much I was struggling to memorize the music and when the entire class was getting it, so I kept silent and tried my best to fake going along with the class. One day, the teacher made an announcement. Class, you've all been working so hard and we're finally able to perform our piece. However, we're unable to do that since there's one person who still doesn't know this piece. The entire class looked around to see who could it be. One student even shouted, "How? It's so easy." The teacher gave an agreeing nod to that little twerp and moved her baton toward me and said, "That person is you." I was mortified. Imagine a little 7-year-old me being belittled and to make me feel inadequate by one of the people that were supposed to support and encourage me. The entire class roared with "Ooh," and even a few students laughed. To make things even better, the teacher then said to me, "Go to the cafeteria and don't come back until you've mastered it." I went to the cafeteria and I cried, feeling humiliated. But who knew? Who knew that mastering "Mary Had a Little Lamb" on the xylophone in first grade was the true key to success in life? You bet I gave a drastic performance to the teacher, and once I nailed it. But instead of a standing ovation of support, I got an irritated "finally" from her. Oftentimes, when one is struggling, we try to mask it to go unnoticeable. It's easier to hide in the darkness of insecurity than it is to live in the light with judgment and vulnerability. Or is it? This experience still lives so vividly in my mind. It reminds me that the American education system is not set up for people like me, people who learn differently to succeed. Instead, it set me up to doubt my ability and lack of confidence in trying new things. You know, kids are very impressionable, and when they have experience like mine early in their school careers, they carry those beliefs and experiences with them in the upper grades and even until adulthood. What we need to remember when it comes to learning is that slow does not equal stupid, and different does not equal disabled. There are so many ways to learn and many ways to teach. But the standard education system is set up with a blanket approach to the learning, and unfortunately, some kids just don't fit under that blanket. Throughout grade school, I was assigned to a variety of teachers, and only a few understood exactly what I needed to help me grow. Others held resentment towards me for needing extra time on tests, asking multiple questions for a deeper understanding, and visual learning techniques. I especially didn't find helpful when teachers would call on me when I did not raise my hand to ask me to solve an equation on the board or read out loud in front of the entire class when they already knew I was struggling to understand. To hear classmates giggle or snicker at me, watching me stumble, or when I have to give the most terrifying answer, "I don't know." Teachers will make hurtful remarks like, "I just don't understand how you're not getting it," or maybe "you're just lazy." These comments added to my determination to figure things out. But it's also led me to believe that there was something wrong with me and that I just don't have what it takes to be good enough to succeed. Intelligence should never be weaponized. Some teachers and those that were smarter than me learned the way that the teachers taught, used their intelligence to make me feel small and stupid. But instead of letting this define me, it only made me more determined. On my 16th birthday, I celebrated by dropping off applications to local employers because I wanted to be 100% dependent on me, myself, and I. I landed a job in an ice cream shop, which, by the way, is very dangerous. I learned that you don't ever really get tired of ice cream, especially if there's just endless flavors. I absolutely fell in love with working. It was easy, no stress, and I got rewarded for my hard work. I felt more empowered working than being in school. So in my sophomore year in high school, I remember a conversation with my counselor that went something like this. I know I'm not the smartest student, but what will it take to graduate as a junior instead of a senior? Big sigh. As she looked at my average C grade transcript and said, well, that would mean after school programs, summer school to gain additional credits, but I'm just gonna be really honest with you. Having a learning disability is gonna be really challenging, even when you go to college. Done. I cut her off. I said, sign me up. That's all I needed to hear, that there was a possibility. I worked hard, and over the next year and few months, I somehow managed to go to school full time and after school programs, summer school, and work 30 hours a week. I would take what was taught and go home to teach it to myself again and again until it registered. I would even do homework during my breaks and my lunch at work. Finally, on June 11, 2009, I did receive my diploma as a junior, being one out of 2 juniors that graduated with the seniors. Thank you. And I ended up going on to college to get my associate's degree as well. Thank you. In spite of all the times my teachers made me feel like learning was out of grasp, I figured out how to learn my way and I succeeded. But it shouldn't be so hard. Fast forward to now in my 30s, I'm sure you've noticed in your work life, not many people are willing to offer help and guidance to help you succeed. Why is that? Why are people so threatened by the idea of helping somebody else learn, to grow, and to be better? I got a job in banking in 2012 and I started as a teller. I really didn't see myself going much further than that, especially with my still held beliefs that I was incapable of learning, even though I obtained a college degree. I had managers that didn't want to see me progress to anything else. Then there was one manager who pulled me aside and said, I see so much potential in you. You should be a banker. I hesitated and I said, to give actual financial advice? I'm not smart enough for that, no way. You know, I do have this learning, and she stopped me. And she said, I don't ever want to hear you say that again. You are indeed smart, and I'm going to show you how. She worked with me every day, learning different financial topics, studying, and tested me. We worked with many amazing clients, and I became the top 5% of the company and won a Pinnacle Award, which is the highest achievement in banking in our company. I'll never forget her telling me, always remember, you're an intelligent superstar. Keep shining. I'm so proud of you. Her belief in me gave me the courage to move into the mortgage department in 2017. While I was scared of having to learn so much, I was empowered by this manager's belief in me and to also see it in myself. My journey to learning the ins and outs of mortgage was not easy at first, but I found my passion in helping homeowners and I succeeded in that. I've learned so much and continue to learn in ways that work best for me. I've been able to overcome the effects of the beliefs ingrained in me as a child to show that I could be successful and I could do hard things. even if I learned them different than others. Reflecting on my journey, the pivotal moments of transformation were often kindled by the light of mentorship. It was the manager who saw beyond my self-doubt, who recognized the potential I had yet seen in myself, and who gently yet firmly guided me from the shadows of my fears into the light of my capabilities. This mentorship was not a mere transfer of knowledge. It was a profound act of belief in my ability to exceed the boundaries I have had internalized. My struggles turned out to be my greatest gift because I learned differently and I have empathy for others who are struggling. I value the relationships of people that seek to support and encourage others. I have learned that if you find yourself in an environment where you're not given or cannot have access to the training or mentorship that allows you to learn and grow, you have permission, no, an obligation to yourself to go outside your circumstances to find it. Empathy is a great tool for change. My journey and struggle with labels and perceived limitations has not only sculpted me into a resilient individual, but has also deeply ingrained with me an unwavering sense of empathy. The empathy is born from a place of profound understanding and shared experiences. I have walked in the shoes of those who felt marginalized, misunderstood, and minimized by the education system that fails to recognize the spectrum of learning. This journey has equipped me with a unique perspective, allowing me to recognize the hidden struggles in others and to reach out with a hand that says, I understand you, you're not alone. This empathy has become my compass, guiding me to champion the cause of those who learn differently. It has driven me to advocate the environments that not only acknowledge, but to celebrate the diverse tapestry of human intelligence. Being human is hard enough. Let's not make it harder by forcing people to learn only one way. Albert Einstein said that if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it would spend its whole life thinking it's stupid. In closing, I like to share a belief that has become a cornerstone of my journey. It's a belief that our unique challenges, the very aspect we've been taught to see as weaknesses, are in fact the seeds of our greatest strength. It's a perspective that holds at its heart and divine wisdom, our Creator, our God, has uniquely designed with us with individual complexities, not to hinder us, but to propel us towards our true potential. I do want to touch on this slightly, just because I feel in my spirit that, Jesus calls us even in our darkest places, and that it's only a magnitude of love for us. There's a reason that He designed us, each and every one of us, so uniquely. Often we're granted only the glimpse of our dreams, a vision of what could be, without a roadmap to get there. It's in the pursuit, the journey through uncertainty and adversity, that our character is forged, our resilience is tested, and our strength is revealed. Sadly, I've witnessed how knowledge and education, which should be used as tools for encouragement, can be wielded as weapons of doubt and division, eroding confidence and worth in those who learn differently. This experience, though disheartening, and only amplifies the importance of empathy, support, and belief in one another. It's astonishing how the belief of just one person could ignite the spark of self-belief, transforming challenges into triumphs and insecurities into strengths. I want to extend an invitation to each of you to stand with me in the movement that seeks to dismantle the outdated norms that have long constrained the vibrant spectrum of the human potential. Together, let us challenge the educational and professional systems that, in their rigidness, fail to embrace the diversity of our capabilities. It is imperative that we advocate for an inclusive approach to learning and success, one that celebrates every individual's unique journey and contributions. As we move forward, let's commit to building a more understanding and more empathetic world, one where no individual feels limited by labels or confined by the conventional expectations. In this future, success is measured not by how well we fit into a pre-existing mold, but how we each in our own distinct manner contribute the tapestry of human achievement. Together we have the power to create a world where every individual can proudly say, I'm not defined by my challenges, but by the strength I've gained in overcoming them. A world where our differences are not just accepted, but celebrated as the source of our collective strength and progress. Thank you for being part of this journey and for believing the transformative power of empathy and understanding and joining me in this quest to redefine what it means to learn, grow, and succeed differently. Thank you. I do just want to say just a quick thank you so much. I do just want to say a quick thank you, to April. She was my personal public speaking coach. She gave me the courage that I didn't think was possible to do this, and the time that you spent, thank you so much. And to Rakshana as well, thank you for everything that you've done for this group. I do also want to acknowledge my mom who's watching online. She's been the mama bear with me my whole life, and even into that conference room with the teachers and parent-teacher conferences. And also I want to acknowledge my dad, who's also watching online. The reason why I have such a strong work ethic is because I watched my dad growing up working over 80 hours a week, including holidays, just to support my sister and I, and open the opportunities. So thank you. And then my husband as well. The love of my life. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all the help, and I'm just feel blessed to wake up next to you every day. Thank you.
I almost needed a tissue myself on that one. Okay, so I love what Karina just said about empathy coming from shared stories. That's the whole reason that we do this event, is to share our experiences, to share our stories so that we can all connect. All of us have been through something similar in one aspect or another. I'm sure there's some of you in here who struggled in school. I'm sure some of you in here who have struggled with identity and who you are and the upbringing you had and deconstructing all of that. So again, that's the purpose, that's the reason we do this event. And hopefully you're feeling moved. You're feeling in your feelings a little bit tonight, and you're only halfway through, so you still have 2 more speakers to listen to. Before we go to our intermission, now we get to hear from our feature sponsor for the evening. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce you to Miss Marcia Bench. I'll let you read her full bio in the program, but I will just tell you she was a 29-time published author, a former attorney, and an all-around amazing human being. We are so happy to have her with us here tonight. We are going to give Marcia a few minutes to come on stage, tell you a little bit about her and her current projects and what she's doing, and invite you to also participate in a giveaway that she has. So don't run away at intermission. Marcia has a collection bucket for business cards or anything you can put your name on. So I'll bring Marcia up. I'll come back up after before we go to intermission, and then we will continue on. So Marcia, it's all yours.
I thought as long as we're sharing stories tonight, that I would share just a little bit of mine as well, because it ties right into what our theme is. And first I want to just acknowledge the courage of each of our speakers tonight. Can we give them another hand real quick? Awesome. Yeah. Because it does take courage to come up here on stage. There was a time when I couldn't do it. Starting in school, just like I think April, you mentioned, having to get up in front of the class absolutely terrified me because I'm very much an introvert, was very shy as a child. Anybody else have that kind of background? I actually love the coaching and speaking business, which I've been in for 3 decades now, because you can serve from your full heart, and then you can go into your cocoon and refresh, So I was invited a few years ago to contribute to a book called Sought After Speakers. I've got a couple extra copies in the back. And by that time, I had already written a few books myself, because writing and books themselves have always been the place that I went for answers. I was the kid that was walking home from school like this. I was reading way above my grade level, and I loved books. because I could get lost in them. And it took a while before I could actually talk about my life experiences from stage. Reminds me of a client that I had a few years ago who had a series of very tragic events happen to her, starting with a fire that burned down her home when she was 2 years old and lost one of her parents, and it went on from there. She had a whole series of events that absolutely traumatized her and caused her to do what so many of us do, and I'm probably guilty of this too, overachieve to try to keep from feeling the feelings, right? And she wasn't willing to share that story until after we had been coaching for a while. She now does healing work with others, and she's written 3 books herself, and really found it so much of a healing journey for herself to share that story. So my quest early on in my life was to find out what my life purpose was. That was just, the question came to me when I was in my teens. Anybody ever wondered about that? Anybody feel clear about that already? Most people I talk to say, no, I really don't know yet exactly what my purpose is. It took about 18 years. Finally figured out what mine was through a series of events, a series of reading books and asking people, asking my parents, asking ministers, asking, going to seminars. And that led to teaching people how to bring that purpose into their work. Because even to this day, 75% of us are unhappy in our work. Entrepreneurs, a little bit, the percentage is quite a bit lower than that, right? But so that led to me actually selling everything, selling my law practice, and taking those principles on the road. And I had to get in front of groups all over the country. Trust me, coming out of the legal field, the first talk and the 65th talk 10 months later sounded quite a bit different. I'm glad I wasn't in the room for that first one as an audience member, because I have a feeling it sounded like a legal argument in court or something. But in any event, I know that each one of us has a purpose. Each one of us has experiences that we have had in our lives. And why would we have those tough experiences unless we were meant to help others with them, right? That's why so many of the people that I work with as a coach are wanting to help others, is they're wanting to share their lessons that they've learned. So I help business owners with their branding, with their growth strategy, with their core message, and also in getting published. So, in sharing their story in a bigger way. So just like I was invited to participate in this book, I'm inviting those of you that are entrepreneurs that would like to share your story in a bigger way, including our speakers tonight, as well as anyone else in the audience, to participate in the one that I have coming out. This is our the first one that our publishing company is publishing, called Transformational Tales of Triumph. It's coming out this fall. And we're looking for just 10 pages telling your story of why you started your business or something difficult that you experienced during your business. Second year of my first online business, I was just going gangbusters, things were going great, and I got breast cancer and went into a year of treatment. And still, I wasn't going to give up this business that I had just started, so I had to start delegating before I was ready. But we do what we have to, right, ladies? So I want to invite you to do a couple of things during the break. First of all, come to the back table and drop in your card. I'm giving away a gift basket that includes a planner and some of my books, a gift certificate. There's some other goodies in there, coffee mug, I believe. So one person will win that tonight after the break. And I also want to invite you to pick up one of our flyers about the book that will give you more details. And for those that choose to register tonight, I'm giving a bonus only for those that register while we're here at this event. And that's a free ticket to a July one-day event that we're doing here in Portland, where you'll get your pictures taken, get videos, you'll get your hair and makeup, and you'll get some social media graphics to use in your marketing to help you become more visible, which is our mission. So see me in the back, and I appreciate the opportunity to support all of you speakers, and appreciate everybody coming out to watch tonight. Thanks.
Yeah, all right. So to kick off our second half, the second act, if you will, I get to bring up someone that is not a stranger to the Confidence Catalyst stage. In 2021, I took the stage for Confidence Catalyst, and our next speaker was one of the other speakers at that same event. And it turns out we have another speaker from that event in the audience. George, back here, spoke with us that same year. So it's kind of a class reunion for us tonight, but it's okay. We like that. So our next speaker is Terry Beardsley. Terry is an amazing woman. She has been through some stuff, and when I first met Terry, she was very shy, very quiet, just one of those where just kind of she just sits back and observes the room, and it has been so much fun to watch her since our first Catalyst experience come out of that shell and really step into what it is that she's passionate about, which is helping others, stepping into leadership positions, and now she is back tonight to share her story once again with a few little added twists and the one special ingredient that was missing from her story last time that really ties it all together. So give a big round of applause for our next speaker, Terry Beardsley.
All right, hi everyone. I'm so happy that I'm able to come back and share more of my story than I shared the first time. The title of my story is From Survival to Revival, Transforming Life on Your Own Terms. Have you ever taken stock of your life after a major event? Or maybe you shared your story and realized it was just the beginning. I have. 3 years ago, I shared my story right here at the Confidence Catalyst. It was an amazing event that really took me out of my comfort zone. And it has taken me on a whole new journey. Speaking on this stage had literally become the catalyst for what was next to come in my life. My talk was titled, My Journey from Tunnel to Passion. And it covered the roughly 33 years of my marriage and the last 11 since I got divorced. I never thought that a marriage that had lasted so long could end so abruptly, but it did. And for that, I am forever grateful. Why would anyone be happy that a 33-year relationship ended? Wouldn't it be hard to relearn how to be solo again? 33 years is literally a lifetime for some people. And to go back to square one at age 54 was not what I had envisioned in my life plan. Life plans aside, fate had something else in store for me. And boy, did it. Facing divorce came as a shock, even though, looking back, I knew we had a lot of problems. I just chose to ignore them. You know what they say, hindsight is 20/20. I didn't want to feel like a failure for my marriage not working, especially after more than 3 decades. Maybe I was being stubborn, or I thought I was just supposed to tough it out like so many of us do. But I didn't want to be the one that dismantled my family. Luckily, I didn't have to be. My husband of 33 years simply asked for a divorce. And the act of him asking freed me from having to make the choice. In the years of my marriage, I found that my ex-husband and I had a lot of trouble agreeing on so many things. He was controlling and could be manipulative. I wouldn't fight against what he wanted. I found that it was just easier to go along with him. It took too much energy to fight him. And I was exhausted from all the things that I was doing for him and the family while working full time and trying to keep peace at home. I was tired, and not the kind of tired that you can just sleep off. When I look back, I can't believe that I let him have his way, that I just buried myself in my tunnel and let him take control over my life. Toward the end of my marriage, I found myself doing things behind his back to try and make things easier for myself and my family. It's so sad that I felt there was no other way. Since I couldn't win, I lost. I lost my identity, my voice, and my power. I lost my ability to stand up and command control of my life. I lost my relationship and everything I had known. But in losing all of that, I won. I won the ability to rebuild it all the way I wanted. Raise your hand if you have ever been lost in a relationship and you didn't know who you were and how you got there. Yes, I know it happens to a lot of us. When you look back on the road to where you were, it can appear like a battleground, a familiar yet uncomfortable wasteland where your dreams all but dried up and you were crushed by all you didn't see coming. The good news is that the road you have traveled doesn't need to be the road you keep traveling. The ending of my last Confidence Catalyst speech went like this. We have traveled my journey, and in conclusion, I have realized how much I have grown in the last 11 years. As I have made a new life for myself, I am finally in a place where I can tell my story and hopefully inspire others to stand up for themselves, no matter their age, so they can live the life they were meant to live. I have learned that I am called to help people in whatever way needed, and that has become my passion. I was proud of that talk and felt that it was a great recap of my life. It was actually only the prelude. When I was given the opportunity to speak again, I was in a much different place than I was just 3 short years ago. I have stepped into my power, reclaimed my voice, and taken control of my life. In taking stock of how far I have come, I realized there was a very important piece of my story that I had not shared the first time. Reflecting on my life, I see 2 pivotal leaps that reshaped my destiny. The first was when I was a young woman, fresh out of high school, I joined the U.S. Air Force. Imagine me, a quiet girl from Virginia, stepping onto an airplane for the first time, bound for an unknown future that would begin in San Antonio, Texas. I was full of excitement and trepidation. That leap took me west of the Mississippi and away from family and friends into a world where I had to stand on my own in a room full of strangers who would soon become friends. This was my initiation into a life of resilience, adaptability, and independence. I didn't know it then, but the seeds of leadership would be planted in my heart during those 4 years of military service. Those seeds would remain below the surface for the next 4 decades, until the time when they would be able to grow and guide me into a life of serving others through leadership. The second pivotal leap in my life was in the wake of my divorce. I had to confront fears that had lain dormant for many years. I was forced to relearn how to be independent, self-sufficient, and happy in my own company. I remember my first speaking engagement. It was a simple elevator pitch that felt like climbing Mount Everest. My voice trembled, my palms sweated, but I spoke. And with each word, the fear started loosening its grip. That experience taught me a crucial lesson. The only way out of fear is through it. Let me say that again. The only way out of fear is through it. What amplified my journey of self-discovery was the power of community. And my community is so important to me. In the early years post-divorce, I found solace and strength in a group of people who became my confidants and cheerleaders. Together, we navigated our new realities, proving that the bonds forged in adversity are unbreakable. This lesson in seeking and providing support has stayed with me as I later created shared passions from wine tasting to wellness. Since I spoke here, my life has taken turns that I would never have imagined. I no longer hide, afraid of what people will think of me. Now I live my life on my own terms and say yes to things that may scare me, but will challenge me to try new things. I have said yes to taking on leadership roles, which include public speaking, which is something I never would have thought I would do. And this has opened many new opportunities for me. I love supporting other women who may be experiencing similar issues and help them understand they can become whoever they let themselves become. It is not easy, but so worth it. This change in my life has led me to meet people I would never have met before, including many of you in this room. It is hard to believe it has only been 3 years since I spoke here. With all the leaps and bounds my life has taken, it seems like it should have taken longer to achieve. I am excited to see how my life will evolve in the next few years. And who knows, I could be back to share more. Why do I share these stories with you? It is because each of us is standing on the edge of our own next leap. It might be the leap into a new career, the beginning or the ending of a relationship, or the pursuit of a long-buried dream. Whatever it is, know this: you are capable of more than you imagine and stronger than you could ever believe. And so I challenge you, before you leave today, to identify one positive change you wish to bring into your life. It does not have to be monumental. Maybe saying yes to a new hobby, reaching out to someone in need of a friend, or finally taking that dreaded public speaking class or workshop you've been eyeing. Whatever it is, take that step. Embrace the uncertainty, the potential for failure. For in that space lies growth, transformation, and true living. In closing, I invite you to reflect on your journey, to recognize the leaps you have already taken and acknowledge the leaps yet to come. If a young woman from Virginia can find her wings in the Air Force, navigate the heartbreak of divorce, and emerge to speak before you again today, imagine what you, with all your unique strengths and experience, can achieve. Let us not live our lives to chance. Let us soar and make things happen on purpose. I look forward to hearing about the positive changes you will make, the leaps you will take, because in the end, it is these moments of bravery that define us, that bring us to living life on our own terms. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Terry, for coming back and sharing your experiences with us again, version 2.0. We have been doing this Catalyst program for a little while now, and some of you have been here since the very beginning when it started roughly 7 years ago, 2017. The very first one was a Zoom meeting, and it evolved from there. We spoke in 2021, and then we took 2022 off, and Rakshana and I came together and recreated it as it is now. And we now do it twice a year. And every time we do it, we try to improve something. We try to add something or make something better, just to make it a better experience for you as our supportive audience, but also for our speakers and our sponsors and program participants. So this year we had the idea to bring an alumni speaker back at each of our events. And Terry had voiced her desire to come back, and so she got to be our first one. So again, we just really appreciate her being brave enough the second time to come back and share again. And speakers, I'm looking at you guys. You all will be back someday, okay? As alumni speakers. So anyhow, how's everybody feeling? Are we good? Everyone's good? Awesome. Okay, good. I hope you guys are inspired by these stories tonight. I know I am. And I've heard them several times over the last several weeks, but I am always in awe of the journeys that people travel and the ways that they deal with the things that they go through and how much stronger they are on the other side. Oftentimes it is that thing that breaks us down to the very core, makes us feel like we cannot go on, that then leads us to our greatest breakthroughs and biggest achievements. So again, I am so honored to be on this journey, and I have one more speaker to bring up for you tonight. Our last speaker is Philip Treem. He is the partner in crime to our creator, Rakshana. So without further ado, most of you in the room know Philip, so I'll just let him come up and tell his story. So Philip, it's all yours.
Can you hear me okay? Because I don't just stand in one place, especially when I'm nervous. But I hope you got something out of these speakers tonight. There's two things that I got from the speakers tonight, and they were things that I've heard over the years, mostly from reading. And one of them was, no matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will learn how our experiences can benefit others. And that plays to the heart, and you'll hear a little bit about that in a minute. But one thing that's really stuck with me in my life journey is it's not where we're at that counts, it's where we're going. And what inspired me is these people sharing their stories, but what's more exciting is where they're going, okay? And that's the power of this. I had a mentor tell me this a few years ago, asked me this question: if we were all to get together a year from now, what would we be celebrating? I said, that was the same thing, right? And I thought, when I was growing up, nobody ever asked questions like that, right? I mean, I had dreams, I had an idea of what I wanted in life, but I never knew if that was going to happen. Maybe there were some days, but never really thought much about ever having those things in my life, I grew up in a small Southern Oregon town, and there wasn't a lot of opportunity down there. Rather confused. My dad's side of the family was Catholic, so we went to a Catholic school during the week. My mom's side of the family was Protestant, so we went to a Protestant church on Sundays. I was confused. Okay. But what I learned from the Catholic school is I really didn't like authority. So I was labeled rebellious, severe ADHD, and had a learning disability. And that was a label that I carried for a long time. And my father told me, he says, hey, just graduate from high school. You graduate from high school, I'll put you in the union and I'll teach you the trades. And I thought, you know what, I like that. Because that's what his dad did for him. And so my big ambition was to get through high school and to carry on the family tradition and get into heavy civil construction. So I barely skated through high school. My dad got me. We went to California, got me in the union. First job was in the Palm Desert, 115 degrees, big federal project, about 700 tradesmen. We were pouring 1,000 yards of concrete a day. Start at 4 in the morning because of the heat. And I thought, this is nothing like I thought it was going to be growing up. You know, my dad was in charge of these projects, and for some reason I thought that's what I was going to step into. But I learned that, you know, it took him 25 years to get to that position. And so it wasn't what I wanted to do, but I felt an obligation because that's what all of my family did for generations. Fast forward to 1995, I came to Portland because they were starting the factories out at Intel. And I had a choice of going to the Bay Area and build bridges for the rest of my career or come to Portland. And I knew that I wanted to get out of California. First winter in Portland, we had the floods in downtown Portland. We had freezing rain, never even heard of that before. High winds, we were trying to fly these big panels and it was just too dangerous. And I didn't have the equipment for that kind of weather up here in Portland. I come from California where you draw a circle, it rains, you go home. Unless you're working for my father. But I did that for a couple of years and I just knew that this isn't the life that I wanted. It's not what I thought it was going to be. I wanted more, better, and different in life. And I had a good friend. He ran a car dealership on the west side of Portland. And every time I saw him, he was dressed nice. He drove nice cars. He made good money. And he didn't have to work outside. All I ever knew my whole life was hard labor. And we'd meet for lunch. And you know, I was trying to figure out what I'm going to do in life. And he said, you should try the car business. I'm like, Sam, I don't even own a suit. All I've ever worn my whole life are blue jeans, flannel shirts, and work boots. I don't know how to tie a tie. I'll do it for a month, but I bet you I won't be here after that. I bet you $100. So he took me up on the bet. First month I was a top salesman. Within 4 months I was hiring and training salespeople. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I'm starting to get respect from people. People are looking at me a little bit different. And I wasn't working outside. It didn't feel like work, you know. And over a couple of years, I had moved up into being a finance director of a large auto group here in Portland. And I loved it. But it was a brutal business. You work every weekend. I was the first one there, the last one to leave. A lot of holidays. I didn't get to see the family much. And once again, I was like, there's got to be something better. And about that time, we could finally afford to buy a house. And so our real estate agent, this is back before the internet was what the internet is today. So he'd come over and pick me up. We had a big stack of papers to go through. And I drove him all over the place. We were in Wilsonville, all over here, southeast Portland, Happy Valley. I didn't know what I was looking for. But over time, he became a really good friend. You know, and he'd stop by the dealership and ask how I was doing. And one day he said, you should try real estate. I think you'd be really good at it. And once again, I was like, yeah, but Carl, listen, I hear you don't make money the first 6 months. How am I going to survive? I mean, I don't like the car business, but it's stability, and I've got a steady income. It's all right. How much did you make last year? Who cares, you know? I'd tell him and say, yeah, I made 3 times that, but I spent 2 months in Costa Rica. I'm like, wow, now I like that. He had time freedom. And so I thought about it and got my license. I really didn't know what I was doing, but I had a broker give me a book. And this book was called 6 Steps to 7 Figures by Pat Hypen. And all right, I'll read this book. And he'd been on tour. And in this book, he talked about how he designed his life. And real estate funded that lifestyle. Okay? I thought, what a concept. And in the book, he told a little bit about his story, where he had a learning disability. And he had like less than a 2-point GPA when he graduated from high school. And I went, I can identify with that guy. Okay? And I took that book to heart. And he talked about 2 other business owners, business partners in there. And one of them, his name was Tim. Tim lived up in the mountains in the Sierras in California. Spent most of his time in the outdoors backpacking, mountain climbing, and doing all the things that I love to do. He had the time freedom to do it. I didn't. And so I thought, I'm going to Facebook stalk this Tim guy and figure out how the hell did he do this? And I thought, All right, I'm going to send him a message on Facebook. He probably won't even respond to a little guy like me, right? Tim, hey, I got the book, and love to have 5 minutes of your time. 2 minutes later, hey, we can talk right now if you'd like. Like, okay. So I got him on the phone, I asked him a bunch of questions, and he was just really, really a cool guy. I mean, he was like a teenager, but he was like in his 50s, right? He just had all this energy. And he says, listen, why don't you come to Reno? I got this event. I got this nonprofit. It's called One Life Fully Lived. Why don't you come down to Reno and you can meet Pat and David and a bunch of other successful people? I went, all right. So I told my wife, we're going somewhere. And I drug her down to this event. And I got to meet all these people. And I came back from that event and I hired Tim as my coach. And I told him, listen, told him my story. I'm working at this car dealership and I want to get out. And I was really inspired. I want to hire you. He said, okay. So the first thing he had me do was probably the most powerful thing I've ever done in my life that changed my life. He says, when do you want to leave the car business? And we came up with a date. He says, okay, I want you to write that date down and I want you to write out exactly where your life is going to be in a year as if it already happened. Write about what's it going to feel like when you walk out of that dealership that day for the last time and say goodbye to everybody. What's the weather going to be like? What's it going to smell like? Is it the summer? Is it the winter? Is it raining? What music's going to be playing in the car? And where are you going when you leave there? How are you going to reward yourself? And I was like, I can dream and make this dream happen, and he's going to show me how to do this. And so I wrote it out. Super, super specific. And our next call, he says, okay, every morning I want you to close your eyes and visualize if that's already happened. And then I want you to read that to yourself 3 times a day, every single day, until the day it happens. And I did, and it was very powerful. He said, in life and in business, you're not going to have to change much, just everything. And I was up for a challenge. Believe me, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was willing to do whatever he told me to do. And he said, listen, life is 95% mental and 5% mechanical. And the majority of what we're going to talk about is personal development. You think I'm going to tell you how to do this I'm going to teach you how to change your mindset and your identity. And so that's what the majority of what we did. And today I truly believe that, they say if you haven't seen somebody in 6 months, you probably don't know who they are. And if I went back to the people that I worked with in construction, they wouldn't know who I am today. It's constant and never-ending improvement. And so I did that. And he says, so when are you leaving what's your goal? I said, well, in 1 year, I want to become a full-time real estate agent. And he says, that's not good enough. We're going to do it in 6 months. Now, keep in mind, I had 2 days off a week, 8 days a month to put this together. I'm like, how in the world are we going to do this? But I'm going to do it. Whatever he tells me to do, I'm going to do it. Okay? And I did it in 4. Okay? And I was blown away. Okay? I was exhausted at the end. But when I left the dealership, that vision that I had created, everything that I had written out had happened. Okay? And it was a euphoric feeling that I've never been able to duplicate again. And went right down to spending a week over at Devil's Lake in Lincoln City with my wife and my brother and his wife. Exactly what I envisioned. I didn't know that there was this lake house that was available. I just said I want to spend a week on a lake house in Devil's Lake. It was a dream I had since I moved to Portland. And we found it. And my brother ended up buying the place. I was going to buy it with him, but I was just venturing into real estate, and I thought I didn't need that distraction. It's probably, one of those things you wish you did. But this is what I'll tell you. As I'm speaking, all you're hearing about is me, 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 right? And after I accomplished that, I felt this emptiness inside. Tony Robbins says there's the science of achievement and the art of fulfillment. And I had mastered the science of achievement, but I had failed at the art of fulfillment. And I knew there was something missing, and I knew that I had to, the only way to do that is to give back, okay? My friend Tim started this wonderful nonprofit, and it was helping people internationally. And so I ventured into that, and he asked me once, he said, "What's your life mission statement?" I go, "What the hell is that? Who's ever heard of a life mission statement?" You know? And so he told me what that was, and he made me create this statement about my life and my values. And like my vision statement, he says, "I want you to repeat this 3 times a day, every single day." And I did better than that. I even posted it on Facebook. And if you go to my Facebook page, it's one of the 8 pictures that's on your profile. Because that's what directs me in my life today. And I'll try to say it, but I'm awful nervous. But this changed my life. Another thing. I, Philip Treem, see, hear, feel, and know that the purpose of my life is to be an unstoppable force of contribution and make a positive impact in the lives that I come in contact with on a daily basis. So every day when I got up and I went to work, I was in a beautiful business in real estate. You're a servant, right? All I could think about is, okay, who's the next person I'm going to help? Then my wife had this idea. She says, "You know, Volvo Firmina wanted me to go back to school, back to Africa and build schools." And Volvo Firmina is Shauna's grandmother. And she always told Shauna, "Go back and build schools. These kids are learning under a mango tree." And then she was up in Canada talking to her uncle, and her uncle came from a village in Mozambique, and he was talking about how he was trying to help fund this village and build schools, and he was a hard time with it. And he said she should go back and help. And so she was moved by that, and she went back and she met with the local village chief and governor and met a gentleman named Antonio, and he ran a nonprofit over there, still does, that works with the youth, teaching them a building trade. And she came back and she told me about this trip, and we put together a 501c3 called Firmina Foundation. And in 2019, we took a group of people over, and we met the chief and the governor, and we met with the people in the village, and we put together a plan. And we came back and we raised enough funds to build a school. And it was 2021 we completed that school. And that was just the beginning. That's the fulfillment I was looking for. For me, there's got to be a bigger purpose. I've had all the material things and the success in life, and none of that filled me until I went to that village. And the beautiful thing about that is we just got back from there in December. Okay? Hadn't been able to go back because of COVID and some other things that came up. But since then, we've been able to build a library, another school facility. The student population has increased by 25%. It's got national recognition. The area where this village is at, most people fled because it was war-torn during the Civil War. People are coming back and reclaiming their land. The federal government is talking, bringing in funds to the area. This has caused this huge ripple effect. It's amazing. I have a 5-year vision plan that I started a couple years ago, and that 5-year vision plan had to turn into a 7-year because of some things that came up. But if you ask me, hey, what are we going to be celebrating in 7 years? It's going to be spending 6 months out of the year over there serving those people. Okay? So, just to wrap this up, if we were all to get together next year, what would we be celebrating? Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Philip, and everybody else. I have a few remarks for you guys, but before I do, please give one more giant hand to all of the speakers tonight. Okay. Every time we do this, I'm just blown away by the stories that we get and the depth of humanity in people. I'm super lucky that I get to join them the whole time. You guys only get to see them for a couple of hours tonight, but I get to spend several hours over the period of about 10 weeks with these speakers, getting to know them, getting to know their heart and who they are and what they truly want from life. And this group, when we met for our rehearsal last week, we found many threads of connection between just the few of them. There's connections to Africa. There is connection between the ways that they learn, multicultural family, so many things that even just these 4 people had in common. Imagine how many people you can reach with your stories. So with that, I have a couple of announcements to share. The first one is, if you're a speaker, an aspiring speaker, you've even ever had the slightest little glimpse of sharing your story from a stage, we are constantly looking for people to join us in the Confidence Catalyst. We do this twice a year now, and we look for 5 speakers each time. So that's 10 speakers a year. You'll notice tonight we only had 4. Unfortunately, our 5th speaker is ill, and so she wasn't able to join us, but she will be joining us next time. So we do still have a couple of roster spots available. Our next event will be in October. If you are interested, please come find me or Roxana during the open networking, and let's chat and see if this stage is the right place for you to share your story, to process your experiences, to share whatever lesson it is that you hold in the experiences of your life. The next announcement that I have is we have a workshop coming up. So for those of you that already are speaking or thinking, I kind of like the idea of this, maybe I need to check this out. We have a workshop coming up called Drop the Mic. Next month, it'll be on May 31st and June 1st. It's a Friday evening and a Saturday. We have a bonus virtual day the week prior. Location to be determined. However, it's going to be great. We're going to talk about personal branding yourself as a speaker, finding the places where you want to go and speak, and how to create your story like these guys did tonight. Again, if you're interested, come find one of us afterwards. We have a special discount for anyone that is here tonight or watching on Zoom that decides they want to partake in the workshop. We have a special discount for you. So now would be the time to do that. Then, I've been waiting all week to share this announcement with you guys. Again, those of you that have been here for a while have seen the evolution of the Confidence Catalyst from a meager Zoom meeting to now a twice-a-year production in a theater with a real stage and a mic and lights and wine. So, like I said, we're always growing. We're always looking for ways to make the experience of the Confidence Catalyst better for the audience, better for the speakers, and better for us, because we get a lot of fulfillment out of this. As Philip said, fulfillment is very important, and we get a lot of fulfillment out of this. So I am very, very excited to announce that we are taking this show to other states. We have our next Catalyst event in Salt Lake City on August 15th, and we're looking for speakers. So if any of you want to travel, or you know anyone in Utah, from there, I know tons of people, but if you know anyone in the Salt Lake, Northern Utah area that would be a good fit for this or has a great story to share, please connect them with us. We are so excited to expand this and just take this wherever the road may lead. We feel very strongly that this program is beneficial not only to those that get up here to speak, but to those that hear the stories, that can relate to the speakers. If you take anything away from tonight, then it's been a success. Even if it's just a head nod in agreement with one thing that someone said, then it's been successful. So that is, that's our announcements. The last comments I have is, if I had to sum up this round of speakers in one word, I would say growth. Growth really is the one thing that describes all of these amazing humans and what they've been through, where they've been, the roads they've traveled, not necessarily being the roads they will continue to travel. It's been an amazing experience to be here with you all. Thank you for trusting me to take you on the journey to get you here to the stage or back here to the stage. And Roxana, thank you for creating this, that initial vision you had. we're still growing, and in 2 years, this will probably look way different than it looks now, but we hope you guys will continue to support us and join us. Thank you so much. We have open networking for like a half an hour-ish, maybe a little longer until they kick us out. Big thank you to Corinne and Chapel Theater for letting us use their venue again, and special thank you to all of you guys. Thank you so much.